Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to and participate in our webinar. My name is Loli Rico. I'm the co-director of the FCJ Refugee Center, and we have with me Jessie Kohut, who is the project coordinator of our City Equity program. Today, Jessie and I, but Jessie will do the presentation about what happens if you have COVID-19, if you are positive, and you don't have access to any of the emergency funding from provincially or federally. And with that, we are going to close the screen to have a better vision with the internet. But welcome, and it's really nice that you are here, especially because we have more than 30 people participating, and also in a way that we can touch any life of anyone who has precarious migration and they are affected by the virus. Welcome. Jessie? No. We have a technical problems with the microphone, but she's coming, okay? You see. Okay. And you move the presentation.
Yes. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. So here we're talking about the Temporary COVID Isolation Emergency Support Fund. So a few questions. What is the fund? The fund is specifically a one-time financial assistance, which is funded by the City of Toronto, specifically for those who are waiting for COVID-19 test results, who are in isolation or quarantine, or who are COVID positive. And this fund is focused to assist individuals who, due to a severe financial hardship, are maybe not able to access COVID testing, or maybe they're not able to complete their isolation because they feel like they have to work and they don't have any other options. So who qualifies? So for the COVID Emergency Support Fund, there are three key components. So the first key component is that you must be required to isolate because you're one of the following. So you're either waiting for a COVID test, which means that you've been tested and you're waiting for your result. Maybe you're isolating due to a close contact or exposure, or because you're symptomatic. And so in that context, even if you're likely, let's say, living with someone who's positive, but you're not positive, you will qualify. And then, of course, the last qualification is whether you're COVID positive. So the second qualification to have access to the fund is that you are not eligible or do not have access to any of the other forms of assistance or COVID benefits, which are including, but certainly not limited to, Ontario Works, including the Ontario Works Emergency Fund, employment insurance, the Canadian Recovery Benefit, the Canadian Sickness Benefit, or any other federal, provincial, or private income assistance programs. And I know that sometimes accessing these programs or applying to them can be a little bit confusing. So if you're ever unsure about if you qualify, or maybe you need help applying, we can support you in that application as well, and maybe clarify some of the qualifications for that. And then the third qualification to access this program is whether you're currently experiencing financial hardship that prevents you from seeking testing or completing your required isolation period. So how much is given? So the amount given, if you do meet these requirements, depends on two key factors as noted in these charts. So the first key factor is the status of your isolation. So as you'll notice here, if you are awaiting testing or maybe required to self-isolate, the fund is a little bit less than if you're actually COVID positive. And then it also depends on the size of your family. So for example, if it's only you, if you're the only person in your household and you have no dependents, the fund is going to be a little bit less than, let's say, It's you, your partner, and then you have 4 children. And then you'll also notice there in the second chart, the amount of funding given is also a little bit different for single parents, and also depending on how many dependents that they have. So for the fund, in keeping with accordance of isolation and social distance regulations, the amounts are either given through check, e-transfer, or bank deposit. That way you can continue staying in your isolation safely, and we can still get you the funds that you need in like a fast manner. So how to apply? So if you meet these criteria, you can apply to the COVID Emergency Support Fund via phone by calling me to the number there, or you can also email me to the email as noted there, which is my first and last name, jessie.kohut@fcjrefugiecenter.org. When applying or referring someone to apply specifically by email, please make sure that you include the following information: the name of the individual, their phone number, email address, and language spoken. And this just helps us assess the person in a faster way. And then it also helps us kind of avoid if there's any kind of language barrier. That way I can connect you to, if you need someone who's Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking or even French, we can connect you to that person who can do your intake instead of trying to work through language barrier struggles. With that as well, there are also 2 other kind of in-house resources that we're providing. So the first is our food and income security program. And that one is kind of like, let's say you are COVID positive and isolating and you need financial support, we can connect you to this fund. But then let's say you also need access to food. We can also connect you to the food program, which is a food hamper delivery every Thursday. And then with that, there's also an income security aspect. So like, let's say you don't qualify for a fund for whatever reason, but you're also passing like, let's say, severe financial hardship. Like, let's say you're not COVID positive or in isolation, but you're still like really struggling financially. We can also get you connected to that fund as well. But once again, that fund is specifically for people who don't have access to any other resources. And then another part of this is there's also a free a child mining program, which is based in an art and music class that happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:30 to 6. And that program is specifically for children within the community, whether COVID positive or not, to kind of connect through virtual Zoom classes to each other, and just to give them like a way to express themselves through art and music, and also something to do. And also it helps them keep a sense of community by connecting with, of course, us, but then also other children in around the city who are also maybe having similar experiences during the pandemic. So yeah, did anyone have any questions?
We are going, now is the time that you can write in your chat if you have questions. I see a question to say that yes, the presentation, usually our presentations are done, are putting in our website. And after this, we will share it with you. Any other questions? What type of proof needs the person to provide for the program, Jessie?
Sorry, I missed that question. Can you repeat it?
What type of proof the person needs to provide?
Yes, so if you're COVID positive, we do ask you to please provide us with a proof of being COVID positive. So that either is a proof of a positive test or a proof of an isolation period as given by the City of Toronto. Usually if you are COVID positive or in isolation, we'll send you a PDF email. And then that PDF email is something that you can send us, which acts as proof. And then something else with that as well is I know that with isolation periods, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to have proof. And so for that, usually we use an attestation of like your word. So we'll pretty much, what that means is that we'll believe what you say.
The other question is that if a letter's doctor is okay, yes. Even if a doctor's letter is no, we don't need that many proof to really to provide with the money. It's just that if you have the need and if you are positive and you don't have access to other financial support, it's okay. I have the question about if it is only for refugees. Refugees, if you are a refugee claimant, you have access to Ontario Works, and in Ontario Works, you have access to there is an emergency fund as well, and it's eligible for who are in Ontario Works. If you are a convention refugee, it's the same. And also, if you are a permanent resident or you are a convention refugee, you can apply for the CERB if you have been working for the programs with the federal government or with the provincial. These are for people who are precarious migrants. And when we talk is people who, for one reason, they overstay in Canada, a person who had been a refused refugee and doesn't have access anymore to Ontario Works. We are talking about international students that they haven't met the criteria to apply for the employment insurance. We have the same for temporary foreign workers and even visitors that because for the pandemic, they are being stuck in Toronto and they don't have access to the other services. That's the people that is eligible. How long this program is active? And when does it end? And how long do you receive the assistance? Jessie?
So the assistance is a one-time payment, which means that after we assess your case, we'll be able to get you the assistance, but it's only for one period. So just one payment. And the program is running as of right now until the end of March.
The other question is, and if the person who have non-status, Jessie?
Yes, so anyone who is non-status is definitely qualifies for this program, especially if they are, like I said, isolating or positive. Yeah, and the program is actually more so geared towards people who are non-status, specifically because they don't have access to other resources like Ontario Works or EI or things like that. So yes, even if you're non-status, you do qualify.
Also, I want to add something about the long of the program. The program is active until March 31st because it's the fiscal year, but we are pushing a little bit with the city and the province to extend it because COVID-19 haven't finished. And the numbers will increase in March as the experts are saying. And in that case, we will need more access after March. But at the moment is until March. We will let you know if the program will be extended. Any other question? There is a question, what happens with people who is in the limbo waiting for decision of an eligibility interview? That people, because you apply and when you send the information, you receive an email with your what they call UCI. At the moment that you have that number, you are eligible to apply to Ontario Works. And if for a reason you are COVID positive, you can contact and you can have access to the emergency fund for Ontario Works. And in that case, they won't be eligible for this specific program because they have access to other programs. Any other questions? Okay, I work as a part-time and I get texted every week, but one time I missed the COVID-19 test. Because of that, I couldn't work for days until I was able to provide the test result. I may qualify? Jessie?
So because you're working part-time, this means that you would have access to a SIN number, which means that you would have access to other benefits. So for this specific program, you wouldn't qualify. But I believe you would qualify for some of the other, like the Emergency Ontario Works. I'm not too sure about that one, Molly. Could you clarify maybe?
Depends of your status. You can apply for Ontario Works. And if you have a work permit also, if you are permanent resident, you can apply. And in that case, you can be eligible for that, for their provincial program. If the person is not working. Jessie?
So if the person's not working, that also kind of depends on their status. So for example, someone who is, let's say they have access to employment insurance, but they're not working, they would have to apply to employment insurance, and we could probably help them with that. Or if they're not working, but let's say they're a refugee claimant, then they would have access to something like Ontario Works. But let's say that you're not status and you're not working, or maybe you're an international student and you're not working and you didn't work last year, so you don't meet the minimum requirement to apply for the Canadian Recovery Benefit, then yes, you would qualify. And then in that regard as well, I just wanted to highlight for everyone that if you are, like, let's say you're not working, but you're a refugee claimant or an international student or non-status, all of you will have access to our food program as well. So even if you're not working, we can still connect you to like food support if needed.
I have another question. If my information confidential? Jessie?
Absolutely. Everything is 110% confidential. Everything, all of your personal information, your personal story, your situation, everything stays within FCJ. And normally the people who have access to it, which is myself or Avali, we're the only ones that really have access to that kind of information. So yes, it's 110% confidential.
If I don't have Ontario Works, well, you can call us and we can do an assessment and explain what is your situation. As Jessie was saying, if you are with COVID-19 and you don't have access to Ontario Works or you don't have access to any of the federal support, you will be eligible. As well, if you don't have a status, or if you are in precarious situation, or if you have an income issue for this month, also we can provide you with the support. We provide food every week, and also we provide grocery cards once a month. As well, we provide rent assistance for people who doesn't have COVID-19, and it's a small amount, but it's for family and for single persons that have precarious migration. I will suggest that if you have more questions, and you can continue doing questions, but if it is your situation, you can call us and your information is confidential and we can do an assessment and look what is the need. All our, if the webinar is recorded, yes, all our webinars are recorded and we share the presentations with all our participants. Any more questions? If for any reason you came late, there is I will try to invite, I see people with the raised hands. I will try to open the mic for you, but I apologize if I can. But I will suggest you that if you can send the question. Are there any financial programs for people who have non-status and need a monthly income? For the moment, we don't have any of that programs that we know. What they have been doing, different foundations is, and the City of Toronto is providing some funding to organizations like there is the Migrant Workers Alliance and ourselves to provide some support. But what we have been doing is they have been providing us with funding that we can provide food and also the grocery cards in a way that they can have enough income to pay the rent and also to provide them food. And the food that we provide is a food that is in combination with Second Harvest, which is not only non-perishables, is perishable food, is weekly, and sometimes it's fruit, vegetable. We try to have in their basket enough that can have a kind of a balance in their diet. And the grocery cards are for people that also that they receive once a month and they can buy food in no frills, and they are the President's Choice gift cards. I will try to open the mic for you, Nadia. You have been putting your hands. But doesn't allow, sometimes the system doesn't allow to speak, but if you have more questions, you can write it. Okay. Any more questions? With this, we want to say thank you and keep in touch, and again, call us at 416-469-9754, and the extension is 243. And if someone answering in our the receptionist, you can ask for Jessie, and we are more than happy to help you. Thank you and have a nice day.
Stay safe. Bye, everyone.
Bye.